Shall we begin?
You are now listening to an altogether less fashionable variety of soccer podcast. Broadcasting live from the capital city of Columbus, Ohio. Welcome to
ACES Radio.
I got the new wings with the Zima flavor sauce.
I've given this no thought whatsoever.
Hashtag probably riding cock.
They're in your face. They're a little different. I think it's super cool. I love them. Jamie, ignorant slut.
Hold on to your butts.
Now, here are your hosts.
Not Morgan Hughes. Rest.
John Zadar. And Darby Snarpus.
No!
Greetings, edgelords, shitlords, and bezlords. If you're listening to this, and I guess you probably are, you've made a continuingly terrible mistake by listening to the latest episode of ACES Radio. Another coronavirus. Are we phase 1 or phase 2 still? Are we? I think we're still phase 1, right? I can't even keep track of this shit. John, where are we?
Are you talking about phase 1 of the virus or phase 1 of the league, or what? Like, what are you? Which phase are you phasing?
Oh, that's true. I mean, I meant the league, but also there are probably phases to the virus, and as Ohio State football is about to go firing up, I'm sure we're entering a new and terrifying stage of pandemic here soon.
Yeah,
which is great.
I think we're in what I'm referring to as phase 2A for the league, since they released the phase 1, then they released 3 games, and then they released the rest of the schedule.
That's right. Yeah, phase 1 was all the hyper local stuff, and now we're still in the East, but less locally moving into. Yeah. Okay. That's where we are. So, but before we get into the meat and potatoes of talking about Columbus Crew soccer, let's check in with everybody. Brent, are you safely ensconced in a shitty hotel room in a shitty city in a shitty state in the middle of nowhere?
I am not. I'm actually still in Ohio.
I thought we got rid of you.
Turns out I actually kind of damaged my elbow a little bit, so I had to have an operation yesterday. So I'll be here for a couple of weeks.
What the fuck did you... Okay, so you got drunk and you went to the stadium and you fell in the Nordac, it sounds like.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
He was just really cranking away at those masks, really getting them clean, really jerking the germs off.
But well, John, that's an operation that happens with the tongue. You have to lick those, so that doesn't really affect the elbow. But...
Well, that's fair. I figure you gotta raise the mask to the mouth.
I just go to the mask. I leave the mask where it is and then just go to them.
I see. So it's more of like a conveyor system, and you bend down to the masks. I see.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I would like to point out that clearly Brent has been learning from Caleb Porter this week by hiding his injury from the rest of us. As far as we knew coming into today's episode, Brent was completely fine.
Yeah, I expect better from Jacob Myers when it comes to my injury reports.
So, did Dr. Pete do your surgery, Brent?
He did not. His office was booked pretty far out. It would have been Tuesday before I could even get in to see him for an appointment, let alone get the operation finished. So,
well, Brent, why do you not want to help fund our next designated player? I don't understand. Why do you hate the crew?
You know, sometimes time is it's a little bit more urgent than circumstances dictate.
Okay.
The slave masters need you back licking, huh?
That's exactly right. They're falling apart without me, John.
So you went to some back alley surgeon and got your Tommy John surgery.
Back alley surgeon that operates out of some place called OSU Medical Center.
Doesn't ring a bell. Never heard of it. Nope. Doesn't ring any bell. It's not Riverside Methodist Hospital. I ain't heard of it.
That's right.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear. Do you have like a cast or a sling or any sort of like arm holster that you're working with there?
It is currently in a sling and in a stint. Is that the right word?
A stint.
Not the right word.
No, that's the thing they put like in your
heart
veins
keep
and
your
shit.
valves open and shit.
What is the word that I'm looking for?
A
It's not a
splint.
cast.
Splint.
Thank you.
There.
Yeah.
Almost
Yeah,
the same thing.
It's in a splint, but the splint gets taken off tomorrow. So.
Oh wow, that wasn't very long.
No, they want it off, and they want me to start moving the hand and the wrist around so that they don't get too tight.
Yeah, when I broke my elbow, they wanted you like out of all the like immobilization stuff pretty quickly, so that you could like the longer it stays in that stuff, things tighten and heal in ways that they're not supposed to. So
yeah, they really want you to get back to working that wrist.
That's right, John, and everything that entails.
Yeah. I mean, that is Brent's moneymaker. That wrist needs to heal up in a hurry.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, how you doing, John? What's new in your life? What surgeries have you undergone this week?
I have not undergone any surgeries, thankfully. I am just living my normal, same old life. Which I know is basically what I said last week, but sorry that there's no news going on.
It's fucking killing me here, dude. Why don't you just like make up some outlandish story for next week? Can you do that?
Well, okay, here you go. We'll just glaze over this real quick. I was up until about 4:30 last night taking care of a child because there was an emergency that I had to assist with that needed the child to be babysat while the adults did the emergency stuff. So that was fun. So I'm very sleep deprived because I only slept a couple hours this morning. So
what was the emergency and why did you have to watch Morgan for that long?
Well, you see, Pam was asleep naturally, and Shrek was hammered, so there were no adults left.
Oh my, yeah, that sounds terrible. But kudos to you for taking care of a completely helpless, emotionally stunted individual like Morgan Hughes in a moment of need.
Yeah, he's one of the most helpless little boys, is what they're saying on the streets.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, in my world, same old shit. Did do a midweek watch party yesterday in which like everybody in the backyard ordered Popeye's chicken sandwiches from, I think they probably went through DoorDash, and like order.
You all ordered them separately?
They did. I'm a eat at home boy, man, John. I like to get in there and make my own foods with my own hands. So, for example, last night, I carefully sat on the couch while Kristen made dinner for me. She slaved over frozen pizza.
You're what's known as a misogynist boy. I see.
Right, yeah. So she slaved over frozen pizza and a Caesar salad while I just sat there and, put my hand down my pants. I don't know if you're familiar with Al Bundy. He's a guy who was on a sitcom before you were ever born, but I was basically doing that.
The name sounds
familiar. Were you making
familiar.
the dressing for the salad?
Oh,
he did say it was Caesar.
Anyway, but yeah, so people ordered Popeyes, and the Castles were missing like half their order, so they had to like call back and, have them send out more shit.
If only those places had drive-thrus where you could pick it up on your way to your watch party like I did.
Well, I think they were ordering from the one on High Street, and I don't know if that one is like right on campus, so I'm not sure if it has a drive-thru. But then Joe and Scott also ordered from there, and they just didn't get their fucking food at all.
It just never showed up.
Well, here's the other half of the story. I went outside this morning because somebody from the ACES Radio fan Twitter account indicated that I should go outside and look on my front porch.
I wonder who that could have.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, there's no.
What was out there, Drabby?
Well, there were two things. First of all, there was a bag of pumpkin spice Werthers, signed Two Drabs, Love Sanch.
Well, that was nice of Sanch. Especially with all the shit you've been talking about him lately.
I know. The other thing that was out there on the porch was what appears to be a 12-hour-old bag of Popeye's chicken.
Oh my God! So the olds just didn't see it out there, huh?
I mean, we were in the backyard watching the game, so I guess the delivery person probably just walked up to the front door and rang the doorbell and left.
Yeah, which is literally what they always do.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if they left special instructions or what, but anyway, yeah, so there was there was 12-hour-old Popeye's chicken on my front porch this morning. So the good news is,
so the question is, did
I
you
didn't
eat
have
it?
to make
get a
breakfast.
text message when your order was dropped off.
Okay, hold on. You ate it?
I mean, if Ben Beachy will pick up a chicken tender on the sidewalks of OSU,
no.
Okay.
and
So first of all, I applaud you for eating it because that is the correct choice. But I'd like for you to go straight to fucking hell for lambasting me for leaving pizza on the counter overnight and eating it.
John.
But that's the best way to eat leftover pizza.
I mean,
John,
I
why would
agree,
you
but
lambaste
Darby
about
lost
that?
his absolute shit like
John.
a year ago when I told him that's what I did.
John.
Darby's food opinions are ridiculous.
John.
I agree. I almost tweeted that at him earlier today.
John.
What, Darby?
John, I did not eat the Popeye's chicken that had been sitting outside on the porch for 12 hours.
Well, you should have, because it was cold last night, and that chicken was still good.
I'm sorry. Next time that happens, I will. I'll call a DoorDash person to pick up the old food and take it to your house so you can eat it.
Darby, you don't just waste hot currency like Popeye's chicken, okay? Someone would have paid for that at the very least. You could have sold it. Resell that chicken sandwich.
Oh, put it on Craigslist.
Yeah. Say I got a 12-hour-old chicken sandwich, half price. You'll have buyers.
I'll keep that in mind. Oh God, that's so fucking gross. But you're actually totally right. I'm surprised that it made it through the night. If I'm entirely honest,
Actually, that's what I was gonna say. You have so many rodents around there. I can't believe nothing got into it.
John, how dare you refer to OSU students that way?
Actually, I was talking about the Rogers, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, with all the college kids around where we live, I legit would expect somebody to like drunkenly walk past at 3 a.m. and just steal that shit. But anyway, moving on. Why don't we let's talk about some soccer, because there were like 2 games that have happened since the last time we spoke.
So how quickly do you think tomorrow there will be a Crew 96 Twitter food war about the best way to eat leftover pizza?
I mean, it's already kind of happened. So, but I think it's a topic always worth revisiting. Although there was already a food war today at some point with steaks.
Yeah, although there wasn't a lot of war to it. I think we were all generally in agreement.
Well, you had said something at one point that I literally typed out, your food takes are always weird and fascinatingly incorrect, but then I didn't end up sending it. I deleted it because I decided it wasn't worth the hassle.
Was it where I said the kind of people who eat burned marshmallows are the kinds of people who eat ketchup on their steak?
Yes, that was it.
Because that is true.
Maybe that was it? I don't remember.
It's absolutely not true. I like my marshmallows nice and toasty, and I would kill anybody that put ketchup on a steak. That is one of the falsest things you've ever said.
Or if your marshmallows are blackened on the outside, you're a garbage person with garbage taste, and you absolutely eat ketchup on your steak. And you eat your steak well done.
Very racist comment, Darby.
Yeah, you put ketchup on your well done steak.
Darby, it's like you want me to murder you in your sleep.
I long for the sweet release of death.
I long to give it to you.
All right, well, let's talk about soccer. We can save the food wars for later here. So to start off, we had a game, first ever game against the fighting blue and neon yellows of Nashville SC, who the Crew handily defeated 2-0 in the battle of real gold versus fake gold. Original Crew 96 gold won. It was a little bit different of a game than we were used to, Brent. Porter even said after the game flat out that they did some tactical changes where they were basically ceding possession. Not as many passes in this game, not as many shots in this game, especially for a home game. You could argue they were a little more passive. What did you think about the how the team rolled out.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit of a weird comment from Caleb Porter, given that he hasn't shown much flexibility in his tactics thus far. But if that was actually their intention and that wasn't just some sort of lame excuse after the fact, then I think it's a good sign to see that they can step out of their comfort zone and do something differently to match their opponent's weaknesses. I was pleased to see that.
Yeah, I believe he said something along the lines of that, like Nashville's essentially really good on the counter, and the way that they like to play is to take advantage of that. And so essentially they took away what Nashville is best at. He also brought in Bouba Keita at center back because he felt like that was a better matchup with their forwards. How dare you, Caleb Porter, for implying that Josh Williams somehow could not handle the speed of Nashville, you son of a bitch. But, John, ultimately it worked. While the stats weren't really anything to write home about, a 2-0 victory is a really good result in this league. Goals from Pedro and a fantastic back heel, Nate Beckman. I'm going to keep calling it that just because it pisses you off. From Jossie Zardes there in stoppage time. What did you think about what was going on?
Well, first of all, what does Nate Beckman want that to be called?
I believe he said something along the lines of a behind the leg shot, which is the most awkward and stupid name for something I've ever heard.
That's exactly what like a dad at like a teenage, like a young preteen rec league thing would say. Like, I don't know anything about soccer. I loved that behind the back leg shot you did.
I did see somebody refer to it as a front heel, which is definitely not
that's
a
just
thing.
Oxymoronic.
Right.
Okay, well, it was a good, really good goal, regardless of what you want to call it. I don't know. I thought that both games this week, not to jump a little bit ahead, but I thought both games this week were good wins, but they were a little underwhelming from the performance side. But I was happy with the result. I was happy to see them kind of switch up how they approach the game a little bit. I think it worked out pretty well. It's a little concerning going in both games at certain periods, but ultimately fairly dominant from the Crew.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe one of the best things that Crew fans got to see in this game was 20 minutes of Lucas Zelarayan playing. He did not start the game, but he came off of the bench and put in a shift. It was nice to see him up at full speed. Yeah, this game did feel a little weird to me. It seemed like at times there were some communication issues where guys were in the same space. Like there was a time when Mokhtar threw the ball in with Valenzuela standing right next to him on the sideline wanting to throw it in. Like, I don't know. But, you know, there were early yellows. Let's see, who was it? Both Fatai Alashe and Pedro got yellows before 30 minutes were up in the game. I think Diaz had some good stuff going on, not in a way, unfortunately, that showed up on the score sheet.
Yeah, that kid just can't bag a goal to save his life.
Oh God, no matter what. I mean, he had like a good opportunity on a run where Pedro got a turnover, and then fucking Dax McCarty comes out of nowhere and makes this amazing slide tackle save. But yeah, like it was definitely a weird game. I still thought it was fun to watch. Like I enjoyed that game. I thought the team performed, especially in the second half. The first half was pretty slow. The second half they definitely turned it up. You know, it's weird to see the Crew only have 42% of possession, but they made it count when they had it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It actually was not a dominant game by the Crew, which was really what I was kind of alluding to earlier, in that it was an underwhelming performance from my kind of perspective. Outpossessed, outshot, all those kinds of things. So they were outpassed by quite a bit. Yeah, just kind of a different different kind of game. But kind of encouraging that, like I said, that we could see them do things a bit differently and still get a result, albeit against a team that isn't very good, but still a little bit better than some of the more recent competition like Chicago and Cincinnati. So,
yeah, and Aloy Room had a couple of really nice saves. Thankfully, they pretty much went right to him, but he still had to have some good reaction saves to keep that shutout. Brent, do you have any other thoughts on this game?
No, not on the Nashville game. I'm good.
Yeah, honestly, I'm old. This game is far enough back I can barely remember. I'm leaning very heavily on my notes here, and I was probably drunk when I wrote them.
Yeah, doing multiple games is it's hard. They kind of blend together.
Yeah. Okay, well then let's skip to the game last night because we might actually remember this stuff. This game for me, so first of all, the result was a 2-1 Crew victory against Minnesota United. The thing that caught my attention first of all in this game was Brent's erection, which could be seen from space upon hearing that Kei Kamara would be not only returning to Columbus, but starting at forward for Minnesota. Brent, how'd you feel about your boy showing up and playing against us?
Well, he's played against us multiple times now, Drabs.
Yeah, but how did you feel about
that?
How'd you feel about him driving cross country so that he could avoid quarantine to play in this game?
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I'm glad that he's.
Wait, what? How did driving cross country make it so he could avoid quarantine? I don't understand that.
If he had flown on a commercial airline, he would have had to have quarantined for 10 to 12 days. But by driving, he was able to avoid that.
Oh, I see. Because he was coming separate from the team. I gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. Sadly for Todd Fichtenberg, who had the opposite of Brent's erection, there was no Ethan Finley in this game. So we did see a little Aaron Schoenfeld later in the game. So a lot of crew alum out there not scoring on the crew, which is always appreciated.
It is not Kai's fault that the rest of his team sucked ass. The few times he got on the ball, he actually looked pretty dangerous. So,
how many goals did he score, Brent?
What did I just say, Drabs? It's not his fault that the rest of his team sucked.
Yeah, one shot all night, Brent.
Yeah, he can't help it that his team didn't get him the ball. That's what I just said.
One shot all night.
Oh, God.
5th leading scorer all time in league history.
And he did not move up the charts last night.
Yeah, oddly enough, one of the stats they promoted during the game last night was that he's far and away leading in the shots category, which I find to be a fascinating thing to try to pimp. I'm not impressed that you've taken a shitload of shots.
Right, yeah, it's not hard to be the 5th highest scorer if you are literally leading the league by a mile in shots. In fact, that says you're probably not a great shooter. You're just throwing everything against the wall.
Well, it goes to show that the fourth person, the 4th place person in that list was Ante Razov, who last played for Chivas USA in 2009. So, not sure it's really an impressive kind of stat to be parading around, but
yeah.
I frankly thought Kai was largely non-existent and pretty underwhelming. And now that I know he drove cross country, I think that makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, for sure. So, arguably, the story of this game was the Pedro and Zelarayan connection. Both players scored. Both players had an assist, and each of them had the assist on each other's goals. This is something that I think a lot of people have been looking for lately. John, do you think are they starting to click? Are they starting to connect? I know Lucas is only recently back from his injury, but they seemed as though they were interplaying well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're ideally going to want to see from your two. I think what we could all easily say are supposed to be the two most creative attacking players on the roster. Mokhtar probably being, kind of the third creative person, maybe Nagby up there as well. But those two specifically, I mean, they both broke records as far as what we paid to bring them to the team. They were both advertised as these really high caliber attacking talents. So yeah, I think some of their interlinking is starting to pay off. I will definitely be the first to admit that Santos has had a really great run of form the last week or two. It's really refreshing to see. I tweeted last night after he scored that goal. That's something that we've never seen him do is make a play like he did last night. I mean, that is exactly the kind of guy that I was expecting for him to be when we signed him, and we've never seen it until just recently. So really, really nice to see that. I will say that outside of a single corner kick that we did short, all of the ones that those two guys took last night did not connect with attackers, and I think that is a point of weakness still for this team, especially one that has a lot of talent and a decent amount of tall guys that should be good in the air. I remarked to Morgan that I think Jonathan Mensah has only scored 2 goals in his entire career for us, and I know for a fact at least one of those was with his foot. So set pieces remains an issue, but yeah, it was nice to see those guys linking up, and I see Pedro score really of just an insane goal, and Lucas as well with a header. Not necessarily what you expect from your creative attacking midfielder.
Yeah, first header in his professional career for Zelarayan on that, and just a perfectly placed ball to him, and he then put it right in the corner. The argument could be made that Zelarayan maybe could have even ended up with a hat trick in that game. He skied the shit out of a penalty kick. That looked like every PK I've ever taken playing FIFA. Just went straight off the screen. And he had another great shot off the post. Basically turned in some amazing footwork and just had the defense lost. He put it off the post. Diaz comes in with the rebound shot, and it gets saved. For me, another game that Diaz did some really good things and still didn't get any kind of result from it. Although he did, even to the point that it was a foul against him that led to the penalty kick. But then the penalty kick doesn't go in. Brent, God damn it. Lucky goal at the end, I think, from Minnesota. Not quite garbage time, but getting close. An attacker manages to get a shot past Valenzuela and bounces it off the post. How did you feel about the defensive performance overall?
Overall, I would say it was really solid. I think this was a pretty decent game all around for the crew. But you could kind of tell that the last goal was coming. You could tell that they were going to score. They had a flurry of shots there for about 10 to 15 minutes. They were just kind of peppering us. At least that's the way it felt. I don't know if the stats bear that out, but that's the way it felt watching it.
We gave up possession to them for about the last, I think, probably the last 20 minutes.
Certainly the last 2 5-minute intervals, looking at the box score, Minnesota was ahead 3 of the last 4 5-minute intervals. So yeah, they were owning the ball a lot more.
So, I mean, it kind of felt, it definitely felt lucky to get out of there with the 3 points after that goal got called back. Sorry if I jumped ahead on your notes a little bit, but overall really solid. But I don't know, it felt reminiscent of some old crew teams that like to give up leads. So it was definitely a little nervous for a few minutes.
Sure. One nice thing in this game, 15 shots from the crew, only one of them came from Jossie. Now you can make the argument that maybe your forward needs to be taking more shots than that. But for me, it was nice to see a little more distribution. Pedro took 4 shots. Diaz and Zelarayan took 3. Sebastian Berhalter, who came on as an early sub for Alache, took 2 shots. Do you like seeing more of this spread out? I mean, it's good that Pedro is starting to materialize as a third scoring threat because we haven't really had that. But do you guys want more Jossie shots, or do you want them coming from all over the place?
I think a little combination of those two would be good. Anytime you can get shots from different areas of the field, it makes the defenders respect more people and then opens up more space for Jossie. But he should probably have more than one shot no matter what.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you want your striker shooting. Obviously, that's primarily what he's out there to do. But this is just something I touched on recently, in that we need to see that this team is able to score goals that don't come off of Gyasi Zardes' head or foot. And 4 goals in the past 2 games, and only one of them came from him, is something that I think is encouraging. I obviously want him to keep scoring. I'd love to see him win the Golden Boot. He's right up there at the moment, hanging tough with what's that guy's name? I don't remember what his name is, but I think he's only 1 goal behind at the moment. So I'd love to see him be able to keep up with that. But I do think it's necessary. Good teams. You look at the only championship in crew history, 2008. I mean, the highest scoring guy on that team was Moreno, and he only had around 10. You don't need a big 30-goal hot shot leading the team if you can get contributions from all over the field. And I think that, frankly, for me, that's a more comfortable way to play and to win, because if something happens to that guy, you're not stuck with no production on the goal scoring front. So really, really relieved to see some other people start bagging some goals.
Jossie is currently 2 goals behind Diego Rossi, probably because LAFC piled up 6 fucking goals last night also.
Oh, wow. Do they play San Jose again?
Vancouver, actually.
Yikes.
Which is the San Jose of Canada.
Yeah.
What I understand. Yeah. Anything else in general on this game, guys?
I wanted to talk about Sebastian Berhalter for a minute.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just curious what you guys thought. I mean, obviously, you don't want to see a player get injured in order for him to get the time that we all thought he kind of deserved. But what did you guys think of his performance and the time that he did have?
Personally, I honestly don't have a whole lot to say. I feel like I think that's actually a decent sign of a good shift from a central defensive midfielder, is that you have no criticisms necessarily, either good or bad. I know he cracked off a shot or 2 at one point, which is nice to see, because Will never really ever did that, and that's something that you also want to have in the game plan and the toolbox of a team, so that other teams know to respect some of those longer distance shots that can come in. So it was nice to see that. But outside of that, I think he just put in probably a pretty solid shift. I have nothing to criticize or necessarily praise. I think it's just a solid all around performance.
Yeah, so he did take 2 shots. Both of them got blocked, but still, I mean, it's putting pressure on the defense. Looks like he only failed to complete 4 passes in the game. I can't tell from the map exactly how many he had, but I would say it looks like it's probably over 20 passes, 1 key pass. So, yeah, I think he did well, especially coming in. I mean, he was basically cold because I think he came in, let's see, how many minutes in?
It was only not 20 minutes in. He came off the bench. He wasn't even warming up. So
yeah, he literally popped up off the bench and put a jersey on. He came in the 19th minute. So given that he wasn't expecting to come in at that point, I thought he did well. As John said, sometimes unspectacular, unnotable plays is what you're looking for from that position. So
yeah. What do you think, Brent?
My thoughts would be pretty similar to you guys'. I don't want to lump too much praise on him because I don't think it was outstanding or anything, but I thought it was a really solid performance for him, a really solid appearance. He had several like really good passes that I saw that just found people in tight areas. I think there were a couple of times where he tried to thread the needle a little bit too much. But overall, his positioning was good, and I continue to not understand why Fatai Alashe would get minutes over him. Just really curious to understand that logic.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, we've seen Sebastian a few times now. I think he's looked certainly serviceable in every performance that he's put in. He's definitely good enough to be playing in this league. He's given me no reason to think he's not good enough to be starting in this league. I don't think that Fatai Alashe has given me anything more that suggests that he's more deserving. And personally, when it comes down to it, if two players are that close, I would much rather see us be going with the younger and homegrown guy over. No offense to Alashe, I'm sure he's a great dude and obviously a skilled player, but I would much rather us be investing in the homegrown younger dude than this guy who's granted still young himself at 26, but has no connection to Columbus or this team.
Yeah, I feel like intuitively, one thing Alashe brings is a little more size. He's 6 foot, 170 pounds, which for a defensive midfielder in our system is actually kind of unusual. That being said, I feel like he's filling a lot of the same role that Artur has been doing this year. That more aggressive box to box, like not quite a destroyer, but not a destroyer either. I mean, he certainly commits his share of fouls. So I think he's supposed to bring that aggressiveness, whereas Berhalter feels a little bit more like the Will Trapp kind of mold, or even the Nagby kind of mold, where he's not going to go in headlong into tackles necessarily. But yeah, and the thing is, it may not matter because, of course, we have no fucking idea if Alashe is going to be out for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely possible that Berhalter is going to be getting a shot here in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I'd love to see him get a little bit more playing time. I don't know what the extent of the Alashe injury is, but I think you're right. I think you hit it right on the head there. I think he does fit that Artur mold much more than he does in the Nagby mold. I don't think he's a like for like replacement for Nagby like you'd want to see. Just out of curiosity, like you said, with the physicality aspect of it, I just looked it up, and he's played 6 games and had 4 starts for us, and he's only committed 8 fouls, as opposed to Artur, who's played 13 games with 11 starts and who's committed 28 fouls.
Damn.
So, yeah, obviously a much more aggressive style from Artur, who is, an inch shorter and 20 pounds lighter. So just kind of goes to show that size isn't necessarily equating to physicality. But yeah, I would prefer to see Sebastian get more time. I think he's more than proven himself. I'd be curious to know what it is that I almost said Berhalter, Porter sees in Alashe.
Yeah, it still continues to be weird that that's a guy who couldn't even find the field in Cincinnati, and all of a sudden he's a first choice with an asterisk, because of course, it's only because of injury. Right. He's the first choice off the bench, basically, it seems.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. My only other last thing to say about this game before we move on, I don't want to hang on it too long, is that this was a game that I frankly think we should have probably come out of with a draw. I didn't see the offside call on that second goal that they took back. Not sure what the process there was, or I know there's rules about which whistle is blown and when allows for or doesn't allow for VAR reviews. It didn't seem like a VAR review happened. It looked like it was a good goal to me, and I think that the possession that Brent referenced earlier in the last kind of quarter of the game makes me a little cautious and a little concerned about the Crew getting into a place where they feel like they are the top dog, the hot shots, and they maybe
get a little complacent, take their foot off the gas, because this is kind of the play that I was talking about, where I know we've stomped a lot of shitty teams and we've only played a couple really good ones. And Minnesota was, trending towards being one of the better teams we've played, and we just kind of eked it out there at the end. So maybe just something to keep people's eye on moving forward.
Yeah, from what I understand, on the last offside, they did go to the VAR official, but that person indicated there wasn't enough to even review it. So basically, VAR looked at it and agreed with the call in the field, so they didn't go to the full review.
Okay,
And
interesting.
yeah, that. I actually haven't watched the replay of that myself. I think at that point I was just like, that was one of those where I was standing, even though everybody else around me was sitting. Like just waiting, because it did have that feel of that, Crew of a couple years ago. Oh shit, we're gonna drop points here.
Yeah.
Well,
you'll have to try to find a full review of the game, because MLS has chosen to not include any mention of that in their highlights or clips. So, because I looked to try to see, and there's no.
Yeah, it might be in the. Do you ever look at the 15? If you go on the MLS
longer
app, they've got a 15-minute.
I haven't looked at that one, but I did.
Yeah.
I just looked at the highlights and the clips, and it's not on there, which I think is pretty curious, because that's a pretty big moment for that game.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's talk a little more generally about sort of all of the things going on with that game and the outcomes. I'll just mention real briefly, Nagby is going to be out for a couple of weeks with a meniscus injury. And in the context of a couple weeks right now, you're talking potentially half the season. Porter said with Alashe, I think he said, he was very dismissive of the injury. Like maybe it was something that got pulled. It didn't seem too serious from the description, but it's Caleb Porter, so who fucking knows? Alashe might be dead right now for all we know. But I'll skip. I'll skip over my Diaz thing. I think he played great in both games, but didn't wind up on the score sheet in any way. Let's talk about the guy who did do great. Let's talk about Pedro, Brent. He's up for MLS Player of the Week this week after 2 goals and 1 assist in the past 2 games. And overall, in the past 5 games, he has 3 goals and 4 assists. Tell us why we're wrong when we say that Pedro sucks.
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever heard John say anything bad about the man. It's just you, Darby.
Oh, how dare you, Brent? You son of a bitch.
But no, I mean, the last 2 games, he has looked really good. He's been creative. He's been dangerous. He's had goals. He's had assists. This was everything that we've been waiting to see from him. And I'll take a minute to tell people, if you want to criticize people for being critical of Pedro before this last week or 2, you can get fucked, because there were plenty of valid reasons to criticize him. So just because people were critical of him before does not mean that they should not recognize his success now. But this is exciting. This is what we want to see from him, and I hope he keeps it up, because it's fun to watch.
John, so I sort of have 2 thoughts on this. One, I think that Lucas is maybe taking pressure off of him. I feel like Pedro isn't always necessarily great when he needs to be more creative, and now he's got a guy feeding him a ball in good spots. The other thing I noticed in the game last night is after he scored his goal, his play was on fire. He was running harder, he was making more aggressive plays. It's like a stone rolling downhill for him, that once he kind of gets on fire, it keeps going. What do you think is the secret to this turnaround?
Yeah, I mean, I think based on the pedigree we've seen from him while he's been here, he seems like a very, very much a confidence-based player. When he has a good game, it shows and it carries forward. And as long as he can maintain that level of confidence through good play and, you know, bagging an assist or a goal here and there, then he's able to maintain that high level. But I think that as soon as, you know, he has a rough match or two, or gets frustrated, or, you know, maybe takes a couple too many hits and ends up on the ground, I think he really starts to flag quite quickly. So that's my take on the guy. I'm thrilled to see him finally playing like this. Honestly, as much shit as I've given him, I don't feel bad about giving him that shit. I think he has 100% deserved the criticism. I'm more than happy to admit that he is now playing incredibly well. And honestly, like, if I'll be very shocked if he does not win MLS Player of the Week. I think it's really hard to point out a player that has had better production in the past not just the past 2 games, but like you have listed here, Darby, the past 5 games. 2 goals and 1 assist in the past 2 games this week. 3 goals and 4 assists in the past 5 games. That's like insane levels of production. And I'm thrilled to finally see it, because honestly, when we signed him, I thought he was everything he was billed to be, but it isn't until literally the last couple weeks that we've started to see it. And I think you're right saying that there's, you know, he's not good in that creative role when he's alone and is being required to be the source of chance generation. It's like every time we see him have to play in that central attacking midfield, he kind of fades. He's not up to the task. But with some of these other creative, really high talented players around him, the distractions give him a bit more space and a bit more freedom to maybe do the things that he's always wanting to do and wanted to try to do, but just hasn't been able to pull off. So, you know, I think this is one of the first times, you know, in team history, there's not been a lot of times where I think you could say that the Crew has had, you know, 3, 4, 5 truly like high caliber, dangerous attacking pieces. And it just makes it so damn hard for the opponents to know who to focus in on.
Yeah, even last year when he had to step into that creative 10 role, 6 assists, 11 goals. So it seems like he was happier shooting and having the ball in good spaces more centrally in the field, even than being that especially creative guy. But regardless, whatever it is that got him to this point, keep fucking doing it, because it's working. All right, lads.
No, Drabs.
Nope.
I need to hear you more
Jesus
specific
Christ.
in saying nice things about Sanch.
Pedro has done really good things over the past 5 games.
All right, Drabby, here's the question. I just laid my whole feelings out there. What do you think? Would you say that he's deserving of the Player of the Week? And if not, you have to make the case for why not.
Okay, so, I mean, 2 goals and 1 assist over the course of 2 games is good. And he had 2 really good goals, and he had a pinpoint perfect assist on Lucas's goal last night. I haven't looked to see. My timeline was so flooded with all the vote Pedro bullshit that I didn't bother to watch like any of the other competitors, so I don't have a frame of reference. But absent that, the way he played in those 2 games, yes, he's probably worthy of Player of the Week.
Who is deserving of Player of the Week? Drabs, asking you.
Sorry, what, Brent? You cut out there.
I heard him.
All right, again.
I heard him.
Who is deserving of Player of the Week?
Lucas Zelryan, everybody.
Oh my God, Darby. Does MLS do Player of the Month?
I think so.
I can't recall if they do, because quite frankly, that to me is what's more impressive. You know, the 3 goals and 4 assists in 5 games is means that to me it's not just a spark of good play or luck or anything like that. It's actual like shown proven consistency. And I think that's the more impressive stat for me than the 2 goals and 1 assist in 2 games.
And the player of the month is clearly Justifies, who has 4 goals and 2 assists in the month of September. And the month's not over yet.
Just want to hear you say Pedro
I know
Sanch
what you want to hear me
should be
say.
the player of the week. Say it, Drabs. Say it.
Brent Cruz first place in the Supporter Shield standings with 30 points.
Such a bitch.
5 points up on the 3 teams tied for second place in the East. 9 points up on Seattle, who's top in the West, but also have a game in hand. Yeah.
If you say Pedro Sanch should be the player of the week, then I will make sure that there is a horse outside your house tomorrow morning.
Well, you just sealed that for me now, didn't you, Brent? Plus 17 in the goal differential for the Crew. John?
Darby, you gotta say it just because I want to see Brent get a horse to your house. Stop server muting him. I see you doing that.
I'm not going to say that thing.
You don't have to fuck the horse. I just want to see if Brent can pull it off.
You know what? That's fair. Pedro Santos deserves Player of the Week.
All right, Brent. I'm going to expect a photo with a horse outside Darby's house tomorrow morning.
All right, we'll see what we can do. But, Julie, I'm going to need that edited into a drop.
What you can do. Not see what you can do.
Wait, what would you do if you walked outside tomorrow and there was actually a horse outside of your house?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out when you show up with a horse. It's not like you got to.
I'm coming tomorrow morning just to see what happens. I want to know. I'll Periscope it.
All right. Get your gimpy, broken masturbation wrist ass out there and show up and fulfill your promise. Let's see you do it.
All right, we'll make it happen.
All right.
But I will need that edited into a drop for later purposes, Julie.
Yeah, because we do drop so well this season.
Oh, my God.
All right. There's going to be seasons in the future. Stop your bitching.
Might be. You don't know. Whole world's going to explode. Supporter Shield standings, John. First place, all those things I talked about while Brent was obsessing over horses. Is this actual real life? Like, is this team as good as it appears on paper? Or what the fuck's going on?
Not to take anything away from them, but I still have some concerns regarding the level of competition. I know that people were giving Andrew Wiebe some shit for pointing that out when he was talking about MVP candidates and bringing up the caliber of players that Giassi Zardes has scored on. But I think there's
no.
What?
You're giving him shit for not bringing up that same context in reference to the other players. It's a fair point to make, but be consistent and bringing it up for the rest of the people. That's why people are getting it.
There are a lot of other teams that get to play against Cincinnati.
I see. Well, are there a lot of teams that are playing Cincinnati 4 times? Because that's what we're on the cusp of doing.
Well, but he's only played 3 times so far, and if the argument is the competition he's scored against so far,
he's averaging like 3.5 goals per game against them.
Yeah, but he had one of Toronto's players on there and failed to mention that they played Vancouver and Montreal about 50 times. Didn't say anything about it.
That's fair. This isn't a Wiebe roast segment. I didn't know that was the case. I just saw people lambasting him for bringing up. Anyways, that's not my point. My point is still that I think I still have some concerns when it comes time to play some of these better teams. I mean, I just brought it up with Minnesota. I don't think that they're a bad team. I mean, I think that they're a pretty middling team, and I think that we're very lucky to have gotten the win because I honestly think we threw the game away. I think that offside call was wrong. I think that game probably should have ended 2-2, and they're only 11th place. We have games coming up against teams that are theoretically better than them. We've got a game against Toronto. We've got another game against Philly. We've got a game against Orlando, who is very close on our tails there. We've got a game against New York City, who we've struggled against in one matchup already this year. There's going to be some challenges coming up that we haven't really faced much. So I think that it's a great Crew team. It's a great MLS team. If they keep this pace and go on to finish this season, as weird as this season is, I think that they can very easily be considered potentially one of the all-time best
teams in league history. I don't know, how much weight that has with the asterisk next to it, but in another article I read earlier this year, as much as I think that this is a weird season, you can only play the schedule and the season that's presented to you, and everybody's in the same situation. So, I don't know. It's very odd, and I'm having a lot of fun watching them, as I'm sure all you guys are. But I still just have that thing in the back of my mind that says, don't get too excited. And maybe that's the Crew fan in me that's become used to tempering expectations. But that's my feelings.
All right, Brent, what do you think? Why is John wrong?
I mean, given the schedule that we have remaining and the talent that's on this roster and the lead that we currently have, I think it's 3 or 4 points right now.
We're up by
points.
5 points on
5?
Orlando at the moment. Yeah, but
Orlando
games played are even.
Yeah, Orlando and Philly and Toronto, they're all tied at 25.
Who we all play, who we all have yet to play.
Yeah.
I definitely think that.
Oh, hang on, you're having a sound issue.
Brent, invest in a $20 headset next time.
All right, try again.
All right, better.
Yep.
Better?
Yeah, you sound good.
I definitely think that we could continue on at this pace and win the Shield. It's just a matter for me of, can they finish out games, or are they going to keep getting ahead and then relaxing like they did against Minnesota last night? If they continue to do goofy little things like that.
Brent, your hotel Wi-Fi is shit in the bed right now.
Oh my God. All right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not sure where that cut out. But
I don't know, just talk.
You were talking about shit in the bed and then you faded.
Yeah. If you continue to fade out in the end of games like they did against Minnesota last night, then you're going to drop some points against some of these teams that we have coming up. And when you drop teams, you're going to fall out of this race pretty quickly. But that being said, I do think that we have the talent to be able to win the Shield this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think another point of concern for me, even though I touched on it a little bit earlier, is that it's nice to see the goals being spread around. We're not scoring a impressive amount of goals. There are 7 teams that have more goals than us right now. Granted, we have obviously far and away destroyed everyone in regards to the goals we've allowed. But, if it comes to those more talented teams and we're struggling to score, then only giving up 1 goal may be the death now. If we lose 1-0 to Orlando, Philadelphia, and Toronto, that's a big deal. It doesn't matter that we only gave up 3 goals against 3 teams if we lose all 3 games. So I am still a little bit concerned about the goal production, but it's not a huge issue for me. And I think that you're right. I think that we are certainly the favorite. We should be the favorite, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't continue to be the favorite. I would imagine at some point soon. I don't know when the cutoff is going to be, but we got to be, with what's the maximum amount of points that you can earn this season? Does anybody even know?
There's 10 games left?
Oh, there are 10. Okay, so
there
30
are 30
points.
more potential points.
So what are we then? Probably only like 10 to 12, 14 points away from clinching a playoff spot already, maybe?
Especially given the expanded playoffs, absolutely.
Right, so we can theoretically clinch our playoff spot in like 3 or 4 games from now. So I think that we're almost a guarantee to make playoffs at this point.
So I definitely hear what you're saying about the level of competition. This is not the toughest schedule the Crew has ever played. But that being said, some of the reason that the teams we've defeated are further down in the standings are because we pushed them down. I mean, Minnesota was in 4th place in the Western Conference before they lost to us. Now they're 7th in the West. We have handed Cincinnati literally half of their losses. Nashville is middle of the pack, but without a loss to us, everybody's a little bit higher if we're not hanging L's on them. I don't think this is not a world-beating team right now, but Crew beat Philadelphia, who's definitely a top-tier Eastern team. We tied Seattle in Seattle approximately 1.7 lifetimes ago before the world went to shit. There's some accomplishments here. The team has done stuff that's, I think maybe some people are a little too quick to dismiss. Cincinnati's become a fucking master of walking out of games with a 0-0 tie. I'll take goals and points from them because not everybody's managing that. The upcoming stretch I think, is going to speak volumes about what the team's capable of, because now you're starting to have those road trips to Dallas, the road trip to Orlando. Two different Texas trips. So Dallas and Houston both. Orlando's an away game. DC United's an away game. So, I mean, there's definitely some travel in the future. Even the Toronto game is that weird neutral field in East Hartford. So this is the stretch where we do find out what the team is made of.
So here's a bit of info going. We can dive a little bit deeper into this conversation. It's tweeted out by Dwayne Rollins, who's one of the hosts of Soccer Today, which I think is like mostly a Canadian soccer podcast. They cover TFC and the Impact in Vancouver and all the Canadian national stuff. And they did a breakdown, and I don't see at a glance here what the explanation is for how they came to the decisions on these rankings, but they have the top 3 easiest schedules the rest of the way listed as number 1 Kansas, number 2 Seattle, number 3 Philly. So those teams are the ones that I personally would be most concerned about. If those 3 teams are having supposedly the easiest schedules of all MLS teams, and they're already not super far behind us, then they're the ones that are most likely, I think, to catch up and give us some competition. Columbus is listed as having the 10th most difficult schedule the rest of the way. And then you see Orlando falls in at 9th and Toronto at 7th. So those 2 guys are also real close to us, but potentially going to struggle. So I think it's Philly is what could potentially be, based on strength of schedule, the real challenge for the Crew coming down the pipe. If you put any weight in that kind of thing, that is,
I think if you look at those standings again, the Supporter Shield standings, Seattle's not very far behind, right? And they have a couple of games in hand, if I'm remembering correctly.
One game in hand.
They have 1 game. Yeah, and that's why I included them. You know, they're in 5th right now at 21. Kansas is in 7th at 20. They're not that far behind either, and they're ranked. Like I said, those 2 and Philly are ranked 1, 2, and 3 for easiest schedules the rest of the season.
Yeah, Seattle has the advantage of geography in this. They get to wipe their ass with the cellar dwellers of the West because they get to play teams like Salt Lake, Vancouver, and San Jose a lot, and even Galaxy, who are, sorry, Guillermo, but they're not very good this year. So we're still in this sort of weird quasi-regional thing where, like, if teams that are close to you are bad, you're going to do well. Kansas City gets to play Chicago twice. They get Nashville, they get Cincinnati, they get RSL. So they're cherry-picking bad teams from both conferences.
Right, but that's my point is, right, you just listed all those teams. Those are all teams that we've already played numerous times, and we've, granted, made the most of it, right? And so that's really what it's going to come down to, is who is able to capitalize the most from the easy games and the hard games. You know, assuming they have the easiest schedules moving forward, then it feels safe to say that they've already played a lot of the difficult teams. And given the fact that if that's true, they're not very far behind, that means they've made a decent, meal of the hard games. They've gotten a good amount of points for them. So it's going to be necessary for us to do the same. Otherwise, we'll get caught up real quick, I think.
For sure. Yeah. All right.
But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how these other teams fare against, like you said, the bottom dwellers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've already kind of touched on this, but the remaining schedule is out now. So there are nine games left after this TFC matchup. 4 home games, 5 away games. We get to play Cincinnati yet again in Cincinnati. Away games also in Dallas and Houston, Orlando, and DC. Our remaining home games are against Montreal, NYCFC. Our next to last game of the season is against the Union, which will be on national television. Holy shit, how did that happen? And the final game of the regular season will be at home versus the dead rotting corpse of Atlanta United. So, as John mentioned, like it's one of the tougher schedules within the top 10, he said, toughest schedules. But, I'm not mad about closing out the end of the season against Atlanta. Like, they're probably not playing for anything at that point. So it might be an opportunity to catch a couple points if we need it, or, even potentially, just rest some guys heading into the playoffs. What do you think about the remaining schedule? Are there any red flags for you?
I think some of these there's maybe a couple trap games in here that away to Orlando could be difficult. That away to Houston could potentially be difficult. They're not a very good team, but traveling, there and back same day, which is apparently what they're doing for all these games. That's a bit of a lengthy trip down to Texas and back. I think those are the ones I really have my eye on. I think that, depending on how things shake out, there's a very real possibility that home game against Philadelphia, the second to last game, could potentially be the deciding game for the Supporters Shield, depending on how things go for both the Crew and Philly.
Sure. Brent, is there anything Orlando obviously being tied for second in the East right now stands out. Anything else that concerns you in the remaining schedule?
Not particularly. I mean, obviously the Uni game, like John mentioned, that could be a deciding Shield game. I think anytime Crew and DC match up, DC is pretty shitty this year, but I don't look for that to be a particularly easy game just because of the matchup that it is.
And an Higuain revenge game.
Yep, that's right. I'm a little bit confused by the schedule, though. I think John's already mentioned this on Twitter, but I don't understand how, when there are several teams that we have not played yet within our conference, we get matched up with Cincy for a fourth time this year, not counting the tournament or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
We get NYCFC again. I just don't understand some of these moves. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to complain about the Cincy game because it should be an opportunity for easy points for us. But it just seems like there would have been some ways that they could have been more creative to get us a wider variety of competition here.
And they randomly shove in two Western Conference games against Dallas and Houston in a time period where I think, we had discussed the most likely scenario being that we would just finish out the season playing in the East, that you could kind of round out your schedule with the teams in your conference you hadn't played. So, yeah, why we get thrown Cincinnati again, New York City again, and then a couple of random-ass Western Conference teams, it's bizarre. And, yeah, those travel games, John makes a good point about Orlando. I'm actually a little worried about the Dallas game.
I was going to say that I missed that, but you're right. That was one I would retroactively add to my list.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be, you have to travel to Dallas, come home, and turn around and play 4 days later at home against Montreal. So I think that early stretch, those first three games for me are going to be, a test of like, okay, are we going to be able to keep the foot on the gas here and keep going, or are people going to start catching up?
Yeah, right. And if we're, if like I said when I was going over strength of schedule, if we potentially feel like there's a chance to be worried about teams like Seattle and Kansas, then I think FC Dallas could easily be slotted into that conversation as well. I mean, you've got to draw the line somewhere, obviously, but they're at 19 points, so still 11 points is a decent gap, but they've got a game in hand on us right now, and if they've got an easier schedule, then they could easily jump up too, and 3 points off of the league leaders would be that'd be a big swing. So,
yeah. All right. Well, let's switch tracks here. We've got one more sort of off the field thing to talk about, and John, you're an art boy. What do you want, Brent?
I was going to ask if you wanted me to throw this out there since it was the thing that I mentioned, but go for it, Travis.
No, I mean, if you want to talk, I was just going to throw it to the art boy because this is sort of an artsy thing, but I'll let you do the intro, Brent. I'm going to go take a nap because I don't give a shit about this part.
All right. So today, the crew, actually, I don't think the crew announced it. The actual company did, but there's a new partnership for the team with Dilly Studio as a kit design consultant, beginning for the 2022 kit. This is, to me, a little bit of a confusing thing because it seems like Adidas has complete creative control over these things. So, I mean, John, what is the purpose of this partnership here?
Yeah, I'm not really sure, and I wasn't aware of the fact that the crew didn't announce it, which is a bit of a weird move that you'd only have one side of a partnership announce that the partnership was now a done deal. But
was this one of those things that Keith Noss found because he finds everything on the internet?
No, actually, the first person that I saw retweeted the tweet from Dilly Studio was John Clem, and then I retweeted something, and then Noss found it.
Well, John Clem has a lot of time in prison to be on the internet, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the deal is. I don't know what you would get from this kind of a partnership. I mean, you're right. These are my concerns as well. I mean, we've seen that Adidas, first of all, has a deal with the league, not with individual teams. They pretty much solely operate now on a templated basis. And they have pretty strict, tight control over the design process and what options you have. And also they design years in advance. So the fact that the first jersey that this consultation is supposed to have made its mark on is 2022, but from everything that I've come to understand over the last few years, that jersey should already be locked in basically at this point. So I'm not really sure. Like I put here in the show notes, like what the value of this is based on the cost versus the contribution, right? Like I don't know how much we're paying this guy, which it seems like it's Dilly Studio, but from what I can tell, it seems like it's just a single guy. Not that there's any, loss of value there necessarily. I mean, I'm a single guy working by myself. I don't have a staff or anything. So not to take anything away from him there, but it does say in his Twitter bio that he did freelance apparel graphic design for Wimbledon, I'm guessing, because he's tagged Wimbledon there. It doesn't specifically say for Wimbledon, so I don't know in what capacity. And then also former graphic and apparel designer for Adidas. So obviously he has some insights into the processes of Adidas, I would assume, but I just don't know what he's going to be able to provide that they couldn't get from their in-house design team. And I'm just concerned about the amount of money that we're spending on something like this.
Let me read. This is a response to somebody congratulating him on Twitter. He said, this is the owner of Dilly Studios, said, "To be honest, I think this could be the first kit consultancy agreement out there. The design work will still be in the hands of Adidas. I will just be on hand to help the club with their long-term planning, briefs, and sample meetings."
Yeah, so it sounds like he's not going to be. There's not going to be any sudden like wrenching away of design control, and the crew aren't going to strut out there, March of 2022 with this wild, crazy, awesome, out of nowhere design. I mean, I think we're still going to get a lot of the same stuff we've seen from Adidas. It sounds like. So I'm not really sure what more there is to offer there. Like, I don't know why you would need this outside guy to be in there. Again, I don't know anything about the guy or the studio, but I did take a look at their portfolio of work. It seems like it's all just like Adidas jerseys that look just like Adidas jerseys. So I'm not really sure like what they had to do with that. Not particularly like impressed by any of it. If I hadn't known any better, I would have just thought it was every other normal Adidas jersey. The fact that he himself is saying this is the first type of agreement out there, that this is also supposedly the first multi-year agreement that this studio has ever had. Nothing about it is like super impressive or exciting to me. And like learning from you that the crew didn't even like mention this is also a bit odd.
I guess I don't know that they didn't mention it. Just the first place that I saw it was the Dilly Studio Twitter account. They may have mentioned it and I just didn't see it. But I've been taking a look at his website and the client page. Also not super inspiring. I'm not going to like
that's what I'm saying.
Tear this guy down, but
I don't see anything from the crew Twitter account. I just did a quick scroll through to yesterday, and I see no mention of this.
The National Soccer Hall of Fame apparel design consultant, Durham University identity consultancy, Canterbury. I don't know what that is because it doesn't have any other descriptor. It just says Canterbury. The Weymouth Football Club. Not sure where they're from.
No, I think I saw at one point somewhere that it was more than just the kit, perhaps, that it was maybe also warm-up materials and things like that, in which case maybe I can see
training materials.
Okay, so maybe there's some more value in there. I don't, maybe he's going to be a participant in merch as well, that they're going to then sell, because they sell obviously warm-up gear and they sell the jerseys obviously, but then maybe he's going to be helping design new hats or scarves or who knows. I have no idea. So if that's the case, then great. I think we could certainly use some fresh fan merch, especially with the new deal with Fanatics. Like, they're just going to churn out the same boring, tired old shit that they do for every team. So if we could have some uniqueness in that arena, that'd be great. But if this is like solely like kit based and like team apparel based, and there's not going to produce anything for the fans, I'm not really sure I'm seeing the value here. I would hope that the investment is not too high, because I don't know. Maybe when the crew finally announces it, they'll explain it better, and it'll be more apparent like what this guy is bringing. But I don't think he did a great job of selling what this partnership means. It did not make me as a hardcore invested long-term fan excited for the partnership. So
incidentally, doing a little Keith Noss action here while you guys are talking. This is a company, well, I guess a guy, who's incorporated in England. It's not an American company. The company has only been around since 2017, and has already changed its name once during that time.
Yikes.
This doesn't, it just seems odd. You couldn't find somebody to be a jersey consultant locally, especially given that, it's not like you don't get really design control since Adidas does that. And maybe that's why the team didn't announce it. Maybe this is less of a big deal than he wants it to appear to be, because this just seems like awfully small potatoes given everything the team that's done that's been pretty big.
Yeah, this website's super weird too. Now that I'm on it and exploring it a bit more, I clicked on the link from their tweet that takes me to the page about the announcement, and there's no way to navigate to any other part of their website. And
you have to scroll down to find the other pages, below the pictures.
No, I clicked on the link that says Dilly Studio crew agreement. It takes me to a page where there's a giant white header bar with their logo that's cutting off Lucas's head.
Yes, so you have to click on that white header bar with their logo.
No, I do.
And-
I click on that, and it takes me to a
Really?
white page.
That's not working?
It's taking me to a white page with the word convention on it, and it's crossed out, and then it just sits there. There's nothing else I can do. I can't go anywhere else. I can't click on anything. I don't know what the convention means. Is that another, like, I don't know what that, like, is.
That might be on your end, because that's not what I get when I click on the link from their tweet.
Oh, really? Okay. So maybe
I get a picture of Lucas with their logo above it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But
and
then when
I click that logo, and it takes me to their home screen.
Oh, you see? Okay, now I'm clicking it. I refreshed it, and now it's working. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of pictures. Like, it looks like they've maybe done some work for Bayern, but they don't have them listed as a client, so I'm not sure why that picture's on there.
Yeah. See, I'm not sure. When you click on these supposed projects, I don't know if this means that they've consulted on these jerseys. But again, like, this is it says Bayern home 2018-19, Bayern away 2018-19, MLS All-Star 2018, LAFC home 2018. You know, these are all perfectly fine jerseys, but they're just Adidas, pretty like run-of-the-mill Adidas jerseys. So I don't know. It's really weird. It's really weird. I don't know. I'd love to hear what the crew has to say. Maybe a Jacob Myers or somebody will ask them about this. I would hope so. Especially given the attention that it seemed to get today by crew fans on Twitter. I would hope that someone would ask them about it.
Yeah, I find it even more like, I didn't realize until you pointed it out that the crew didn't say anything about it. I didn't even think about that. Definitely an odd move for only the other side to be excited about the partnership.
Yeah, and now that I'm scanning through it real fast, not that I don't want to stand it too long, but there is a quote in here, supposedly from Steve Lyons, about this. Quote, Columbus Crew SC is excited about our partnership with Marcus Dilly and Dilly Studio as a design consultant for our team jerseys and training gear in 2022 and beyond, said Columbus Crew SC Executive Vice President Steve Lyons. Quote, the team jersey is the most viable asset of our club. It was critical that the new design be authentic to our fans and the people of Columbus while representing our bold vision for the future. Through our partnership with Dilly Studio, we were able to create a look and feel for our jersey design that will be instantly recognizable as Columbus, and of which our players, our fans, and our sponsors will be incredibly proud. End quote. So I mean,
Columbus jersey, sweet.
Right. Well, who knows? I don't know. I tweeted earlier. I said I'm going to be real pissed if they paid this guy six figures to rip off the community kit, because like, you don't need to pay someone to do that. Or if you're going to pay someone to do that, hey, how about you pay like me or Chris Blaine or Mark Vucinic, the people who came up with that? Like, I don't know. It'll be really interesting. I would love to hear more from the crew about this supposed partnership, since the only acknowledgement they've made is this supposed quote from Steve Lyons in the Dilly press release.
So everybody tweet at Jacob Myers and demand that he ask the front office about this deal, because we need a good investigatory journalist on the case here.
Investigatory journalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, their client list is not very impressive as a non-English lad, I guess. I don't know any of these brands.
All right. Anything else on the this nothing burger that it sounds like this thing is?
No, not that I have to say. Bront, any last thoughts about this thing?
I think we pretty much covered it.
Guess keep your eye on new kit announcements as 2022 approaches.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to our question of the week, which we'd been calling crew superlatives, except they weren't really superlatives. So now I just decided it's a question of the week, especially because this week is actually not even about a player. Just trying to change things up, keep things a little fresh. I'm a fresh little hot boy, John. I don't know if you've heard that about me. I like to keep my finger on the pulse of the street. And the street is saying that this is the question that is on everybody's mind right now. So I'd like to know from you guys, what do you think is Dr. Pete's favorite musician or band?
Who do you want to start, Drabs? You did that thing where you didn't call anybody out.
Okay. Well, you're unmuted, so why don't you go?
All right, I'll go. Okay, I thought of this earlier when we decided that this was it. I think this makes a lot of sense. I can see it now. Just picture this. Picture white, sandy beaches, clear skies, a beautiful sunset, the lapping waves. You can just hear them just gently lapping. And, in the background, a little bit of steel drums. The feel of an ice cold margarita on your lips, or maybe a Corona, something like that, And then walking with you hand in hand is Dr. Pete, completely butt naked, and you're in Key West, and you're headed to Margaritaville because Dr. Pete is obviously a giant Jimmy Buffett fan. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay, very nice. For a second, I thought you were going to go Rupert Holmes, the Pina Colada song, but I like where you went.
Ah, yes.
Except I don't like the butt naked part at all. I'm so unhappy about what happened there.
You should be, but have you ever been to Key West or talked to anyone who's been there? Because apparently there are always naked old people there.
Oh, well, that sounds like my kind of place then, as a frequently naked old person.
Well, I mean, if you've decided suddenly to start fornicating with other humans, then you'll love it, Darbs. But there aren't any horses there.
I mean, there is a notable. Well, there are a non-zero number of Jimmy Buffett fans who are also Crew fans. I will say, Cassandra Ferris is very excited by your answer.
I did a quick Google search for you, Darby. There is a link here. I'll DM it to you for Key West horseback riding.
Oh no. Anyway, moving the fuck on. Brent, who do you think is Dr. Pete's favorite band or musician?
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about this one for a while, and at first I was leaning toward labeling Dr. Pete as a CCR fan.
Okay.
I can see it.
Yeah. But now I think I'm going to go with Dr. Pete rolling around in his brand new fucking Range Rover that he has. Cranking up some Dave Matthews Band.
Ooh. All right, he's a jam band fan. That's what you're saying here, because that seems to be the common theme across the two.
Do you think he also Do you think he does Dr. Pete play in a Dave Matthews Band cover band like at Natalie's Pizza on Thursdays or something like?
Oh my God, I would go see that. Oh yes, I would
need to
love
organize an ACES radio outing to go see Dr. Pete in his Dave Matthews cover band.
All right, I hate everything about that sentence, but I'm in.
Drabs, it's up to you to organize that. Just send an email to team@savethecrew.com if you're interested.
Yes, Dr. Pete, email us your next gig at team@savethecrew.com, and we will fucking be there. So for me, my initial thought was that he'd be like some sort of mellow, moody blues kind of fan. But then I realized there's actually only one answer that makes any sense in this context. Because Dr. Pete, when it came time to step up and help buy the team and save the crew, was clearly inspired by the words of his favorite musician of all time, who once said, "Yellow bitch, Columbus Crew." That's right, Dr. Pete loves Sean bands more than anybody else on the planet, and I will not hear otherwise. He's rolling in his Range Rover with the stereo cranked all the way up. He pulls up next to you at a stoplight, and you're like, "Oh, who's the guy with all the fucking bass who's like rattling my car?" And you look over, and it's Dr. Pete. That's it.
I did see Dr. Pete, Frankie Haydick, and Sean Bands doing coke off the urinals at Lil Bar.
Wait, were they taking turns, or were they like all leaning in at once?
No, they each had their own line on their own urinal.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That seems like the most sanitary approach.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've covered that, if anybody out there wants to share who they think who Dr. Pete's favorite band or musician is, send us a tweet. Don't do the team@savethecrew.com thing. How dare you? Let's talk about some man balls. We had a couple of games to choose from. So, Brent, why don't you go first? Who are you giving your man balls to this week?
There's so many good candidates this week. The first one obviously has to go to Drabby's favorite crew player of all time, Pedro Sanch. The dude is just killing it lately. He deserves all the accolades that he can get. Really torn on the second one. It can go to Aloy Room for all the saves that he's had to make. It can go to Jossie for that ridiculous goal that he had at the tail end of that Nashville game. You know what? I think I'm going to give it to whoever the GM or whatever they want to call their person for Minnesota for figuring out a way to completely rob the Colorado Rapids blind and getting away with it and not even trying to hide it. They managed to get Kei Kamara for only like $150,000 in GAM. How do you pull that deal off? That's insane.
I mean,
well, you're like trying to get a notorious piece of shit. So
right, yeah. I mean, the locker room cancer was due to spring up any day now. He'd been in Colorado entirely too long.
This just in: Brent can't believe that people are only willing to pay $1 for a pile of dog shit.
You know, I'm really curious about the whole locker room issue. Do you really think that Minnesota didn't speak to Ethan Finley about that and how much of an issue that would really be?
I think Minnesota was desperate for a starting quality striker.
Yeah, with all their injuries.
And
sometimes you take
somehow
the gamble,
Kai still
right?
manages to remain pretty good friends with several people that were in the locker room.
Well, yeah,
2015 and 20.
A dick. Not everybody who's a dick is a dick to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, spoken like a true dick, John. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome, you piece of shit.
All right, John, do you want to award some man balls here?
Yeah, I'm giving my 2 man balls out today. I'm going to give one of them. I think I may have already done this a week or 2 ago. I can't recall, nor do I particularly give a shit, but I'm going to give another one to Jordan for the great calls on the game. Just like, honestly, the best announcer I think the crew has ever had, like unquestionably. Super knowledgeable. It's really refreshing to have someone talking about the game in the way that she talks about it on the broadcast. I know some people have a few qualms with a couple of the quirks that she has, but I think that from a knowledge standpoint, I don't think the crew fan base has ever had better. So she's getting my 1 man ball. The other man ball is quite possibly the easiest man ball I've ever given out, and it is obviously going to Zach Steffen for his not only first start for Manchester City, but first win.
Yeah, indeed. He wasn't called into action a lot, but I did manage to watch a good chunk of that game, and it's just awesome to see him playing at that level.
Yeah, super cool. He made one really great save that was like he ran out to like the 20 yards or so and slide tackled this ball away that was like a pretty good over-the-top through ball.
Yeah, the timing on that play was perfect because otherwise that guy is right through uncontested to the goal.
Yeah, you've got to have a shitload of confidence and a huge pair of balls to make that play.
Yeah, indeed. All right. My 2 man balls this week are going to as one would expect, not to anybody related to crew play on the field, but to 2 people on Twitter. My first man ball this week is going to go to the account Shawshank SC, which is a crew supporter group in Richland County, Ohio, who tweeted, and I quote, "Listened to ACES radio for the first time last night. Awesome podcast about the greatest team the world has ever seen. I'm going to have to be on there one day." So I'm giving my man ball to Shawshank SC. I hope you recover soon from the traumatic brain injury that you've clearly experienced. As Morgan said in his image, "Are you okay, Shark?" But in all seriousness, thank you for saying nice things about us. Because my other man ball this week is going to the other end of the spectrum. While I appreciate John's man ball for Jordan, I'm going to give my man ball to another member of the broadcast team, one Brett Hiltbrand, who just absolutely decided to fucking roast me last night during the game as he was doing his job. Basically, as we were having a Pedro conversation in which I indicated I wanted to die because Pedro was doing well. Brett referred to me as our friendly neighborhood curmudgeon first. Then he referred to me as an average podcaster. So I am totally here for this, Brent and Brett. And furthermore, at any time, if you want to come on the show, I think you should absolutely do it. We would have a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate that people associated with the team are just embracing the fan culture these days. We've noticed that not to toot our own horns, but even the team account has taken up some things that are sort of known in the ACES radio community. So thanks for noticing that we're alive. We love you and stuff. So yeah, those are my man balls. All right. So shall we talk about the next game then? Because we only actually have one until we next speak again.
No, I actually want to change my last man ball if you'll allow me.
We will not.
Oh, God.
Oh, well, I think you will. I'm going to give it actually to Matt Lampson.
Wait, is this the one are you taking this away from Kei Kamara?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't give it to Kai. I gave it to their GM. But
okay.
Yes, taking it
then
away
you're
from
allowed. Go ahead and take it away.
Definitely.
This one's actually going to go to Matt Lampson. Not sure if you guys saw this today, but he tweeted out that this was lucky year 13. 13 years since he was I don't know if it's since he was diagnosed or if it's since he's been cancer free, but a really big anniversary for him. So here's to continue good health for Matt Lampson.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. I did see that. And of course, as always, #SuckItCancer. Matt seems like a really great dude and has overcome a lot and does a lot for cancer survivors and their families. And also a 3 or 4 time winner of MLS Humanitarian of the Year. So yeah, go out there and support the Lamp Strong Foundation. Good change, Brent. We definitely allow that.
Thank you. Hey, you know who else is a 3 or 4 time winner of the Humanitarian of the Year award?
Also Matt
Kamara.
Damn it. So Brent takes away every man ball he's ever given to Kei Kamara and gives it to Matt Lampson instead.
That's fair, actually. I'll do that. That's fine. If you want to go back through all those spreadsheets and make all those changes, you go for it, Traps.
I mean, nobody cares because they don't mean anything, Brent. But yeah, I'll definitely go back and change all the spreadsheets that I've been updating regularly throughout the entire season, and definitely didn't drop off like 2 months ago. All right, now do you want to talk about the next game? Because we could talk about like soccer and stuff, really. I guess.
We've already done that this episode.
Okay. September 27th, which would be in 3 days, Sunday, in East Hartford, we are going to be playing against the Toronto Football Clubs in what is allegedly a home game for them, but is basically a neutral site game. So, I mean, let me pull a thing up here. This is. I'm so prepared today.
This will be only the third game against a non-Canadian opponent since the bubble tournament for them. It looks like.
Yeah, they basically spent a significant period of time bouncing around Canada, playing other teams, and now essentially they're stuck in America. Because from what I understand, if they were to go back to Canada, they have to quarantine and shit. So
yeah, I was going to add some clarification to that because I know we touched on that a bit last week.
Go for it.
I did hear on the radio call after the game yesterday, actually, sorry. Doran did confirm that the Canadian teams are stuck here for the next 6 weeks, or possibly longer, I would assume, if they make the playoffs. So they're not with their families. They're not at home. They don't have the luxury of their home field advantage. They don't have the luxury of even a small crowd of home field fans. They don't have their typical routine. So they're playing a full season of away games, basically.
which, and I know it's looking ahead a little bit, might then have playoff implications, because assuming things aren't magically better by the time the playoffs roll around, they'll be playing home playoff games in neutral sites, which is a whole other can of worms. That being said, right now they are tied for second in the East with 25 points, 7 wins, 2 losses, 4 ties. Brent, what are your thoughts so far? Have you paid any attention to Toronto at all? I've admittedly done relatively little.
Not so much. I haven't watched a ton of their stuff. Paid attention to the results a little bit league wide, but it's hard to know what to make of them, just because, like you guys said, they've only played 2 games against not Montreal and Vancouver, who are both incredibly shitty this year. So it's hard to know what to expect from them, I think.
Sure. They're another team that's been a little bit bitten by the injury bug. They have a midfielder out for this season. Michael Bradley has a grade 2 MCL sprain from the beginning of the month. Marky Delgado is questionable with an undisclosed injury. But John, they have found a guy who maybe is the heir apparent to Josie Altidore in Akindola, who has been sort of bouncing in and out of the starting lineup. Their last game, they actually played a 2-forward setup, but otherwise it's kind of been like 3 games for Akinola and then 3 games for Josie, and just kind of going back and forth. What are your feelings about this game? And again, like being in a weird neutral site and everything, like.
Yeah. So going into this game, I think my expectations are hopefully that we can pull a win. I mean, I know I've said that I'm still skeptical, but I think that this would be a good statement game, even with all of the conditions presented to Toronto. This will be actually Toronto's first game at their home away from home, that Pratt Whitney Stadium in Connecticut. This is their first game there, so it's it's probably a bit better to play them now than it would be towards the end of the season, when at least they've gotten a little bit of comfort in the routine of playing at that place. This will be a true road game for both teams. So we've got that going for us. I think we've got this interesting battle for who starts at striker could be a potential hiccup, something that, Caleb Porter likes to play mind games with his roster. Well, this is kind of a similar mind game in return. What kind of striker are we going to see? Who's going to start? Are they, going to maybe throw something crazy out at us? But with both those guys starting, who knows? The team itself, while being one of those top teams in the league, has had pretty middling results, especially recently. I mean, they lost the past 5 games for them are a 1-0 loss to Montreal, a 3-2 loss to Vancouver, a 2-1 win to Montreal, a 2-2 tie to DC, and then a 1-0 win to NYCFC. So, frankly, not incredibly impressive. I mean, 4 points out of the last 5 games is not great. I think this is certainly, a kind of game that the Crew should be able to win. Like I keep saying, there's no real, other than Orlando for me, and maybe Philadelphia, I don't consider, even though TFC is tied with them on points, I don't think they're the same caliber as those 2 other teams. So I think that this is a winnable game. I know it's always kind of like the draw on the road in MLS type situation, but I think a win here is certainly doable.
Yeah. Josie Altidore, 1 goal and 1 assist in 578 minutes so far, whereas Akinola in 507 minutes has 6 goals. But this is a team that runs through their number 10, Alejandro Pozuelo, 5 goals and 8 assists already. So, yeah, I definitely think it's one of those teams that you're going to kind of have to be aware that there's danger from a couple of sources, but I really hope that they're just a little unsettled right now with their situation. I mean, frankly, most teams are playing in what's functionally a neutral site. we're having a small number of fans in Crew Stadium, but it's not like you're playing in front of a packed house. So, and in fact, a lot of teams are still playing in completely empty stadiums. So they might kind of be used to it at this point. That being said, yeah, I think essentially being in a secondary bubble again, where you're basically sequestered away from home for weeks and weeks, is going to be a burden on them. But they're probably not feeling it quite yet. I think this is going to be a pretty tough game. It's one that thankfully, we should have a pretty good roster available. I'm assuming Caleb's going to do some amount of rotation since they just played on Wednesday. But then the team basically gets almost a week after that, which is a long break in this season. So yeah, definitely a challenge.
Like you said, Pozuelo's the key to this team. I think if you shut him down, they're going to just dry up. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Artur and whoever is in there beside him are up to the challenge, whether it's Alashe or Berhalter. I think those are obviously the only two real options at the moment. We haven't seen Aiden Morris in months. So I think it's going to be a good test for those guys. Even Artur, he's got some good experience in the league and with our team, but even he's still young. So, to face off against a high caliber attacker with, a lot of experience in Spain, will be a good test. So I think if we can weather the storm of Pozuelo, who is certainly one of the top MVP candidates right now, I think that's a good sign and will make me feel a lot better going forward.
Yeah, Brent, you may get more Berhalter in this game, and that will be a tough assignment if he's got primary duty there. It wouldn't shock me if Artur is the one who gets the call, because that's a big ask of any player, let alone a 19-year-old first year former academy guy.
Yeah, they're going to need to be tracking him all over, and one of them is going to have to be on him. I would imagine that whoever starts, Artur and whomever it is, their number one task from Porter is going to be to stay on his jock. Do not let him have space to breathe.
Yep. Exactly. Okay, well, before we get into predicting scores for that Toronto game, let's go ahead and recap the current standings here. And we'll give a brief little summary of what happened here in the past week. Last week, Morgan didn't predict anything, so he's in dead last place with 5 points. You really hate to see it. #rest. In third place, one Brent Miller with 35 points. You, for some reason, for some unknown, insane, crazy reason, predicted a 4-0 win against Nashville.
A lot of people are saying that that's what the score should have been to that game, and therefore I should probably get a few extra bonus points for that prediction.
That was very wrong.
Yeah,
it was
that's not how that works.
2-0 Crew victory against Nashville. You got no points in that game. May God have mercy on your soul. However, you picked a 3-1 Crew victory against Minnesota. That was also very wrong. Oh, you got 5 points for the other game. Never mind. Because it was at least the right result. We need to fix.
Oh my God, Darby actively cheating as we go here.
You hate to see it. John, I got screenshots of the correct scores before Darby changed them earlier. I'll be sure to send that out on Twitter.
Could you go ahead and tweet that out? Why did you just give him 5 points and then take them away promptly again?
No, because I didn't trust my own calculations, but I've got formulas
you never
in
really
the spreadsheet.
should. You are very old.
It's fine. Yeah. Anyway, Brent also predicted a 3-1 Crew victory against Minnesota, which of course was horrendously wrong. But he got 5 points for calling it a win.
I feel like it was only a goal off, and if somebody had managed to not sky a PK, that actually would have been the correct result.
Horrendously off. Moving the puck on. John Zadar, you predicted a 3-0 Crew victory against Nashville. While that was nearly as wrong as Brent's prediction, you did correctly guess that it would be a win, and you got 5 points there.
It was actually equally nearly as right.
But it was also equally as wrong.
Well, I know. I'm just saying.
Okay. However, in a game against Minnesota United, for some reason, you chose a completely improbable score of a 2-1 Crew victory. And while most people are saying that going into the end of the game, there's no way it was going to be a 2-1 win, it was actually a 2-1 win. You got 15 points.
Yeah.
Leaving you with 45 points and solidly in second place in the standings. Trailing only yours truly. Now, I predicted a 2-0 Crew victory against Nashville. And as it turns out, that was the most brilliant thing that anybody has ever said in their entire lives, because the Crew did indeed win 2-0 against Nashville. I got 15 points. Celebration.gif.
A lot of people are saying that my 2-1 prediction is actually the most dangerous scoreline in the prediction game, and so for that, I should get another 30 points.
It was a dumb prediction. It was a dumb prediction. No,
I'm actually going to go ahead and agree with you on that.
No,
we're going to give him those extra bonus points this time around.
Oh, look, John just deleted his entire line. He has no
see,
points.
I'm in first down here. I'm above you.
No,
see how that works?
No, that's not how that goes.
Yeah. Oh, you gave Brett 40 points again. Oh, you gave him 35 points again. Pick up your mind, Darby. Jesus Christ.
I can't control Z what you did, as it turns out.
No, you cannot.
Drabs, would you like me to read the score lines that were correct that you ended up changing earlier because you're a cheater, pumpkin eater?
Nobody. What the fuck are you talking about?
Cheater, pumpkin spice eater.
Sorry, I messed that up.
Yeah. In the game against Minnesota, Darby, you predicted a 3-0 win against Minnesota. Now, it seemed like that definitely should have been the result. There was definitely another goal in that game. Either Lucas's mix,
and it went into the Crew's net.
PK, yes. Lucas's PK should have gone in. His shot that went off the post should have gone in, and that would have crushed the soul of Minnesota, leaving them scoreless. However, the final score is 2-1. I only get 5 points for that prediction.
A lot of people are saying you probably shouldn't even get any points for that.
Leaving me with a grand total of 65 points. So, that being said, Brent continuing to be terrible, John being somewhat good at his job.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah. And me being awesome.
Drabs, I'd just like to go ahead and read this. The real score lines before Drabby changed them because he's a cheater, just like Morgan was. Tied for third place.
No,
dead
this
last.
Is not. No, this is not
Morgan
a thing.
Hughes
no.
and Darby Schnarfist with 65 points each.
This is not
That's
a thing.
True. I
In
did see that when I first logged on.
No.
Yep.
Was me with 75 points. I'm in second. First place.
You can tell that Brent's not lying because he didn't even put himself first. Yeah.
With 85 points. That's exactly right. If I were going to cheat, I would put myself in first place.
Exactly. Just like you and Morgan, Darby. Just like
listen,
you and Morgan.
John, everybody knows that Brent is a beta cuck. He's not going to put himself first.
Darby, I'd like to invite you to go lick a battery.
So
shit.
The important thing here is that Darby is tied for last with Morgan, who has made one prediction all year long.
That's not a thing. No,
that's true. Yep.
No. Okay. Moving the fuck on. We're going to make Brent go first because he's a douchebag who makes up fake scores. Brent, what's your prediction for the Toronto game?
All right, Toronto. Let's go. Let's say 2-0. Clean sheet. 2-0 Crew.
2-0. Brent predicts Toronto wins. Okay. John, I'll let you go last. I'll hop in next here.
How kind of you, Darby.
Unless you want to go next.
I mean, you went last week, and obviously you used it to cheat. So why don't we switch it up?
Okay, that seems fair. Fuck you. I've learned my lesson. I think I'm gonna respect the value of home team FC, even if it's not your actual home. I'm gonna say this is a 1-1 draw. I think they managed to score. I think we managed to score, but I bet it's a pretty boring fucking game. All right, John, what you got?
Yeah, you took my score there, buddy. I'm going with a 1-1 draw as well. I think depending on the rotation of the team, we may be playing a bit more conservative. I think this seems like the perfect kind of game to take a bit of a breather, maybe rotate out some of the guys. Maybe we see Lucas not start, give his ankle a bit more of a rest or whatever it was, things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them kind of play a bit more defensive, maybe, and have I think that the defense is starting to show some cracks. So I think a good team like TFC with a talented guy pulling the strings could definitely sneak a goal in there, but I don't think it's going to be a exciting one like you said.
That's fair. Yeah, wouldn't shock me to see Jordan Hamilton this week. Jossie's been playing a lot of minutes, and Fernando Adi hurt something falling off the bench at some point, so he hasn't been in the lineup recently. So yeah, some rotation definitely wouldn't be surprising.
He hurt himself during one of his brisk walks on the field.
Right,
chasing down a ball.
Well, when you've lost access to your license, you got to ride those lift scooters or whatever they're called. So those things aren't very stable. As Save the Crew,
he pulled up Ben Hosell.
Yeah, as Save the Crew legend Ben Hosell knows.
All right, Brent, what did the old man forget this week? What did I miss?
I don't think you missed anything this week. I think you actually managed to do a very mediocre job.
Oh my God! I got a breaking news here from Keith Noss, who's DMing me on Twitter. Breaking news: the Columbus Dispatch headline here: urine collector is charged with possessing child pornography.
I was just looking at that on your Twitter page. What the fuck?
Quick quote here. In 2008, this man was charged with criminal mischief after he was caught collecting urine in the men's room at Sports Ohio in Dublin.
Oh shit! I remember
Dublin
that.
police said he put a plastic wrap over toilet seats, shut off water to the urinals, and placed foam cups in them. Supposedly, this man liked to drink the urine of young boys. So I just wanted to give a quick update on that. Say hashtag Dublin is home, and sorry you got caught, Nate Beckman. We'll miss you at the tailgates.
You literally hate to see it.
You hate to taste it too, Darby. Jesus.
I wouldn't know. I literally would not know. So I guess this is the point where we'll all do that thing, right? We ran out of soccer shit to talk about, so okay. And all Lord Guillermo's people said, I don't
For the
know
love of
why
God,
we're
don't drink
whispering.
little boy's urine.
Brent.
He's dead.
Hooray! We finally killed him.
I hate Kei Kamara.